What does it take to create a vibrant, thriving life? First, the sad news is that Thoreau was right. Most people are leading quiet lives of desperation, lacking in meaning, fulfillment, and vitality. But we choose more. We choose to create extraordinary lives. And the Art of Vibrant Living show entertains you with inspiration, empowerment, and education to create your life into a masterpiece. It's time. Let's vibe up. Aloha, y'all. Daniel Aaron, your host. Welcome to the Art of Vibrant Living show. Indeed, make your life a masterpiece. That is my greatest hope, desire. In fact, I implore you. So what we do on this show is we hopefully entertain you, educate you, and most of all, empower you to truly live your most extraordinary life. You know how this works. It doesn't tend to happen accidentally. It takes some education and some intention. So a request, a suggestion from this show. We've got an amazing show today, phenomenal guest. I'll tell you about her in a minute. And take something, at least one thing today, and say, I got it. I'm going to apply that. I'm going to live that. I'm going to do something with it. Don't let all of this just wash over you. Use it, act on it, right? And if you would like some help, if you are not in this moment living to your greatest potential, nobody is, by the way, and you want more, then please reach out. Send me an email, daniel@danielaaron.com. I'd love to connect with you and learn how I can support you. Today, the show, we have a really phenomenal guest, a woman who has done some phenomenal things. She's gone from a career in the military to raising a family to becoming a spiritual mentor, intuitive guide, medium, angel medium. Phenomenal, right? To have that spectrum. And she's got such a powerful story and message of hope and empowerment for you. So Teresa Baker-Opland, phenomenal person, and I'll let her tell you more about her story. It's inspiring. We're lucky to have her, and I'm super glad for that. Teresa, thank you so much for being here with us today.
Oh, thank you for the invite, and I'm so happy for this conversation. I have so much appreciation for your work and your message and how you're inspiring us all to live more vibrantly. So I'm truly honored to be here.
Well, thanks for saying that. And, I love that you run such from my perspective, a range of experience. Like a lot of people, myself included, would not think of career in the military with angel guide, right? Or spiritual medium right. So I know we're going to figure out how all those things go together. And there's a logical story of how this unfolded, or maybe beyond logic. I don't know. But since I know a little bit and our guests might not know any, would you fill our audience in a little bit on, how did you get to be here in this way that you're showing up now?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So it's not as though I woke up one day and decided I'm going to be a medium. I've been affiliated with the military since I was 15, wearing a uniform since high school. And so the military's always been in my veins, very grounded work, and that's just kind of how I operate. And so my story will make sense in a minute how I got here. So I'll take you back a little bit. My husband and I both stationed at Pearl Harbor when we met, and it was one of those stories where it was love at first sight. And I will never forget, it was probably our third day, and here we are in Honolulu and at dinner. And I remember just staring at him from across the table because he was tall, dark, and handsome and amazing. And I remember in that moment thinking to myself, oh, I'm in my head, I'm thinking, I wonder if we ever got married, what would our kids look like? And mind you, this is only date 3. And well, he caught me staring and he held my gaze and he said, well, I would imagine a little like both of us. And I was so thunderstruck in that moment. And I just knew that it meant that we were going to be together forever. So for a few years and a few babies later, we're now stationed in Monterey, California, literally living the dream. It was more than I ever thought life could be. And I remember one day he was away, Tom was away being a Marine, doing Marine stuff. He was actually working with the SEAL team at the time. And the boys and I were outside in the backyard having a picnic. And at the time they were 4 to 9 months old. And well, that's when the call came in. My absolute worst nightmare. I received news that Tom died from service-related injuries, and within minutes, my door was swarming with men in uniform, high-ranking officers, chaplains, CACOs, and a CACO is a casualty assistance calls officer, someone to walk you through the process of saying goodbye to your loved one and help you with whatever's going to be next for you. But my home became this scene from a Lifetime movie, you know, the type that gets too hard to watch. You want to change the channel, but you can't look away. And this was now my life. And I remember there were people everywhere surrounding me and my boys, and even outside the home, offering words that I just couldn't comprehend. I just couldn't even hear them because I was too numb to understand what was happening. All I could think was, how am I going to tell my sons that their daddy wasn't coming home this time or ever again? And needless to say, I was absolutely devastated. I went from living my best life to now being lost and alone and grief-stricken. And as you can imagine, living without him was painful, impossible. But for me, the most difficult thing to accept was thinking that someone so beautiful and perfect and someone so necessary could just be snuffed out like a candle. You know, he's got to be somewhere. It just didn't make sense to me. Where is he? Is he really gone? Will I ever see him again? And who can answer these questions? And unfortunately, no one could. So this led me on my spiritual journey and to sort of make sense of life and death and the other side. Is there another side? What happens on the other side? And in this quest and on the spiritual journey, I discovered mediumship. I was blessed to sit in front of an amazingly talented medium in my area. And he brought through the proof that I needed, that the love of my life was okay. He's still with us, continues to love us, and he's just going to be with us differently. And in that moment, I received so much healing from this knowledge that I fell in love with the art of mediumship for what it can do for a person, for how it can help a person on the grief journey. So I put it to the side and went on with my life. I had baby to raise and work to do. But I then went on to study mediumship for 15 years, but it was more for me, so I could stay in contact with others that I've lost. And I was just so fascinated by the work. So it was more for me. And then I went on to do it for others. But I'll tell you another amazing discovery I made on this journey of mine as I was developing as a medium. I discovered more about who is on the other side, or heaven, as many call it. I learned about the angels, and using my abilities as a medium, and learned how to connect and commune with them and receive guidance from them, again, for myself. And then I realized, you know, there's something here. There's something here. And so I decided I wanted this to become probably the next version of me, or another way for me to serve. And so that's kind of what I've done. And so here we are.
Here we are. Yeah. And thank you. I mean, that's obviously a high level overview of an amazing journey. And I can't even imagine how difficult that was to lose your husband like that, especially after such a deep connection and such a thorough immersion into your union. So amazing that you were able to cope and move forward and, you know, and continue. And so a couple questions then, because I'm guessing there are probably some people in the audience, whether they're with us live or by rebroadcast, that are a little bit like I was when I was a kid, which is I'd never heard the word medium. I didn't even know there was something called spirituality. So, you know, two things I want to ask you about around that. You said something really important, I think, which is part of what drew you into it and why you wanted to immerse yourself and study. was because you saw what that world can do for people, and maybe we say do for people that are grieving or struggling, or on this side and challenged in some way. So would you say, like, what is this thing called mediumship, and how does it work? How does it help people?
Well, mediumship, I mean, if you think about even the word medium, it's something in the middle. It's a way to, it's almost like a channel. It's a connection. And so that's what I become, is that connection between the spirit world or the angelic realm and someone sitting across from me. And so it's just, you just become a voice. And so it's all about energy, right? And learning how to manipulate your energy, because that's another gift that we receive when we're born, right? We have the gift of free will, free choice, freedom, like all these amazing abilities, and being able to manipulate our own energy is one of them, because we're meant to work and operate in the world in this way, and sort of stay in connection to the other side. Some of us professionally, some of us just for our own, and then so I feel that this work can be very beneficial and very healing for people, because for one, it lets you understand that you're never alone, because I feel that that's where most people suffer. They think they're alone. They think they've got to figure it out on their own. They think when their loved ones are gone, they'll never see them again. That's just the end, and that's not the case. And I also feel as a medium, the way that we're meant to serve is also for guidance, not just to connect with the other side, but using our intuition, we can help you gain clarity on your path. We can help you, kind of figuring out your purpose. I mean, you're always the one who's got the information. We just kind of help you get to it. So there's so many different ways that being a medium can serve others. And every medium is unique because it sort of uses your own life experience and your own natural abilities and strengths. And it's almost like the spirit world knows who needs which medium. And it's just such a fascinating practice. And I've just been obsessed with it for most of my adult life. And I also didn't know what the word medium meant. It wasn't until I was in a young widow support group. A bunch of the girls, I saw them getting on a wait list to see someone. And I said, "Oh, what are you guys doing?" And they said, "Well, we're going to go see a medium." I'm like, "I don't know what that is, but put me in." And that's when I was able to sit with that amazing, talented person. And yeah, I feel like most of us don't know what that is. And honestly, I think that's okay. Until you need it, you don't know what it is. And so that sort of speaks to your own journey. You haven't needed the support, and that's amazing. But when you do, we can definitely be of value and service to you.
Beautiful, thank you. It makes a lot of sense like that, and yeah, it's a in a sense it's a simple word, medium, in between, and in some way in between this world that some of us don't necessarily connect with or see, or yet maybe believe in or sense, and the world that we're in normally, that's from the yoga perspectives, the 3D world, or the world of the senses, that's not what's real anyway. It's just a very, as Einstein said, very pervasive, persistent illusion. So here's the next thought that comes to me around this is, I was speaking with someone, it's not going to come clear right this moment, about this realm of communicating with the other side recently. And someone said, well, how do we know if it's real, right? Or if it's just made up? And my thinking was, well, what difference does it make? The question really, to me, and I wanted to hear how this lands for you. The question to me is it helpful? Like, I don't care if Einstein says something that's powerful, or Mickey Mouse says it. If I can hear whatever it is they're saying, and it makes sense to me, and it helps my life get better, then to me the source is sort of secondary. It's the message that counts. Does that make sense, kind of in relationship to medium? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, it makes perfect sense. But I will tell you, they always know. They always know what to say and how to reach you. For example, maybe you bring someone through and you're trying to prove the continuity of life, and so they give you evidence. For example, I just had someone last week that I sat with, and he was very specific in the information that he gave me, a certain brooch that he gave to her, and a certain holiday that they spent together. There's no possible way I could have known that. And even if I was reading her psychically, just the way it's presented, like, you know the person's voice, even if it's coming through me as the medium, the way he would have delivered the information. It's just, the spirit is brilliant, and they will find a way to paint that picture and just give you the evidence that you need. So I can see why there would be a lot of doubt. I personally doubted it, and even around the angel work, I will never forget. And I feel terrible for even saying this. I was in a bookstore once, and I remember seeing this book on angels. And this was even before I was really, I was a developing medium, but I was more curious than developing. And I spoke on angels, and I looked at it as my Roman Catholic self, and I said, really? Who does this person think they are to speak to angels? And the angels are going to speak to them. And I remember scoffing at the book as I picked it up to purchase it. So something within me knew that there was some truth here, even though my ego was like, oh, really? This is ridiculous. And purchasing it. So I understand the doubt. I really do. But what I will say too is that anyone can do this, right? We all have the equipment needed. The first thing is you need intention, dedication, and education, meaning learning how the energy systems work, learning how your own body works and how to feel. And intention is big, right? And so you just put it up there, angels, I'd like to get to know you, sit with me. And then you sensitize your energy. And next thing you know, you get that, what we call that aura bump. All of a sudden you sense some energy to your shoulder, and then it builds from there. And then you start to develop this amazing relationship. But what I want to say first is anyone can do this. And that's not what I was taught back in the day. I was literally told by one of my mentors that, well, if you're either born with it or you're not. And my first question was, well, why are you charging me for this course if I don't feel I was born with it? But you're going to teach me how to do it. It didn't make sense. So I stuck with it, thankfully. And so now that I know what I know, I will be the first to say, if anyone wants to communicate, whether it be the spirit world or the angelic realm, you simply have to decide. Just decide that you want to, set the intention, invite them close. And then whether you buy some books or you YouTube or Google, I promise you, you'll be able to do all the things that I do, as Jesus said, and more, right? All the things that I do and more. You just have to. And I think a lot of people are fearful, thank you, Hollywood. So there's that. But if you believe in energy and like attracts like, and of course you're a good person and you come from good intentions, you are only going to connect with light, right? So I'm not even sure if that answered your question. We went off the rails. I went off the rails.
Well, that's great. Rails only get us into certain territories. So I love what you said. And I got a little goosebump there because I was just before you said it, I was thinking that statement from Jesus, all this you shall do and more. And for some reason in my work in the last few weeks, I've had, I don't know, 3, maybe 4 conversations with people that have strong Christian backgrounds and have an interest in, we'll just say, the esoteric sciences or arts, right? They have interest in even spirituality, yet something in them is saying like, but I think from Christianity's perspective, I should stay away from these things, that they're somehow incompatible. And, and to me, that's okay. Well, cool. If, that's your experience or what it looks like, but, maybe we could talk about that a little bit. And the kind of answer to that for me keeps coming back to exactly what you said, the way Jesus put all this you shall do and more, right? And that's the ability to go beyond the physical world, right? That's what faith is. So I love that you said that, and I love that bringing that part forward in a way that's empowering for everybody. I think you're about to say something. Go ahead.
Oh no, I am vibing with everything you're saying. I feel I grew up Roman Catholic, right? And there was so much guilt around it because I was never, I mean, sure, they talk about angels and how much support they can bring you, but nowhere does anybody tell you that you can and you should communicate with them. It was almost, I mean, you were basically condemned for almost everything. And so there was so much guilt around it, which is why I scoffed at the book when I saw it. And yet, as I'm picking it up to purchase it, something within me knows the truth. And if you breathe into your heart, you know, and you trust and you feel it, you're going to feel there's some truth in this, right? Just step away from the mind for a bit, because that's where the chatter is, that's where the judgment is, that's where the conditioning is. And you take a breath into that gorgeous heart center and just feel, and something within your soul, it's not even a learning, it's a remembering that this is who we really are, and this is how we're meant to live in the world and to be supported and to be loved unconditionally, and we shouldn't have fear. And I believe it was I don't remember who said it. If you only knew who walked beside you, you would never feel fear. Right? If we only knew and we only trusted. Yeah, and I feel like we've been done a disservice, but that's okay. We're back. We're coming back to our truth. And so because of conversations like this, an amazing podcast like yours, who are, helping to awaken people to that truth.
Yeah, thank you. And 100% with you. It's like, yes, there are forces out there that want to sort of monopolize power, right? And so I love the message that you bring, that hey, this is available to anyone. I remember I had in my mid-20s, I had what I think of as like a divine 2x4 whack me upside the head. And my eyes opened to a whole different world than I knew, right? So we could call it a spiritual awakening, call it going crazy, whatever we call it. It changed my worldview dramatically. And one of the expressions that I learned coming out of that, this quotation, I think relates to some of what you said, and I want to get your take on this. When we talk to God, it's called prayer, right? And this, of course, is well sanctioned by all religious authorities. Talk to God, pray. The second part of that quotation, though, is when God talks back, it's called mental illness, right? Yet we have, we have these examples through every religion of people that had, received messages or communication from the divine in whatever form. We believe that, we applaud that, but somehow we end up getting the message that, well, that's them, that's not us, right? Does that make sense?
Yeah. Well, first I want to go back to that quote that I just remembered. It's from A Course in Miracles. But it's interesting where you talk about how, it could be thought of as mental illness. And somebody actually commented on one of my posts on my TikTok, because I was doing a card reading for the collective. And somebody said something about, well, if you're hearing voices like that, it's a psychotic break. And I thought, wow. And I was actually sad for this person, because I mean, sure, to some degree it could potentially be correct, but that's what it's come to. Hearing voices is some sort of mental illness. And so there's so much fear around that. But I don't know, I feel like we're kind of moving past that a little bit. A little bit. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm with you. Well, and another of my favorite quotations here, this must be like Daniel's quotation hour suddenly, is something Krishnamurti said, which is, to be well adjusted to an insane society is not a sign of sanity. And the truth is, everybody's hearing voices all the time, whether they're the voices of the authorities in our life when we were kids, or the voices of the people around us now, or the voices on the TV. To me, again, it comes back to like, there are voices everywhere. The question is, are they helpful? What are we doing with those voices?
Yeah. And so a good way to sort of gut check that, because you're right, we're always hearing voices. They could be from our past, they could be from people in our upbringing, people that are around us right now. So the way the way I ask people to check to see if it's a voice that you should listen to, first of all, is it coming from fear? Does it make you fearful? Does it make you anxious? Then that's the ego, that's conditioning, that's, it could be a number of things. But if the voice is giving you a sense of peace, if it's giving you guidance, and if it just feels good in the body, then listen, right? And it could be your higher self, your own wisdom, or it could be guidance coming from outside of you. And it doesn't matter, we don't even have to label it. But if it feels good, then stay with it, and continue to sort of cultivate it, nurture it, allow it to grow. And sometimes when you start to feel that connection and that voice, just sit with it, just be with it. You will be surprised what kind of wisdom and guidance you might get from it. So do the gut check first. Does it make you feel anxious, or does it make you feel calm? Does it make you feel that you can trust? So yeah, but you're right. This voice is coming all the time.
Yeah, I mean, personally, I'd be more apprehensive about people that leave the TV on background in their house all the time than anybody that hears voices in their head. Like, you know, and joking aside, sort of joking aside, like one of the developments for me over the last few years, I had so many years where I was just obsessed with my own spiritual evolution and my healing, and then living overseas and in really deep service to other people. I didn't tune into the media at all. I mean, probably for 20 years, I just like intentionally blocked it out. Then about, 4 years ago, there was some weird stuff happening in the world that kind of got my attention. And so I said, okay. So I started tuning in a little bit to the media and hearing, of course, all kinds of different perspectives, the full range. And one conclusion that I came to strongly out of this experience is I don't really believe much of that stuff. Like, I think it's really hard to know that what is spoken through any kind of media situation, if there's truth to it. And so I've come, like, when I hear people having debates these days, I just usually just step back and say, You're debating about stuff that we can't even know about, whether there's any truth to it or not." So to me, that seems like a waste of time. But part of what I've also come around to is a skill that's super important and maybe becoming more important is discernment, and the ability for each of us to know for ourselves, how does that land for us? And you gave that great barometer as well. Is it producing fear, or is it producing something that is uplifting to you? And I know part of your work involves helping people connect to their own intuition, which I think is probably an integral part of this. So can you say more about intuition and discernment and how that shows up for you in your work?
Oh, absolutely. So, I mean, we do it all day, every day anyway. We just don't realize we're doing it. Maybe you have a conversation with someone and you walk away just sort of feeling tense in your body, or that's your intuition, right? And especially feeling in your abdomen, that's your solar plexus, your sacral chakra, and that's how we get information. That's how we also give information. Um, so we're doing it all day, every day anyway. If you start to do it with intention, meaning let me check in with myself here. So what I like to do is, so part of my morning ritual is I get clear, I get grounded. I want to make sure I'm not carrying anything from the day before. And this way I'm able to better discern or decipher things that are showing up for me. I actually charge up my chakras, and you learn about it. It's so easy and it's so important. Just imagine what they look like and give an energy to each of them so they're on point, right? Just a little charge. And then move into your day. And then you'll start to notice you're moving differently. You're carrying yourself differently. You're responding differently because you're now connected to your intuition. So it's about intention. Okay, let me just stay checked in with myself today. And especially what I like to do as part of my morning ritual, I sit down with my hot water before I do anything, and I set my intention for the day. And I visualize how the day is going to go, because I don't want to leave it to chance. Always the creator, never the victim. I'm going to dictate how my day is going to go. So that's the first thing that I do. And then I check in with myself. How am I feeling today? And then usually I'm able to breathe into it. I'm able to soften it. I'm able to quiet it. This helps me just to connect with myself, which is where your intuition is, right? It's in your soul, it's in your heart, it's in your chakras. And so being more connected to your intuition, just being more sensitive. And a lot of us, we hear, oh, you want me to be more sensitive? That's a little scary. It really isn't. It's actually very powerful. If you can be okay being sensitive, I'll tell you, that's, to me, that's the second, they call it the second brain. I think it should be the first brain. It's your sensitivity. It's connected to your intuition. You just start showing up differently. So what I like to do is imagine the third eye, which is right behind the brow bone, and just give it some light, give it some love, give it some intention. It turns it on just like that. That helps us to see outside of the physical vision, right? And then I work my way down to my throat. Help me to be in my truth today. Help me to speak truth today. Help me to know truth. And then I work my way down to my heart. Help me to know love. Help me to be love. Help me to hold the space of love. And I go all the way down the solar plexus, which is my personal power, my sacral, my emotion, my root, which is my connection to safety, security, stability, my place in the world. And I always give extra love and attention to the crown chakra, which is my connection to the divine. So really just charge those centers, and then you don't even have to think about it. Your intuition is already on, but you're giving it some attention. It just naturally, organically makes you more discerning, right? You're going to notice, oh, I should stay away from that conversation. Or, you know what, I think I want to turn left instead of right today. You don't know why you just know, and just start trusting that. You start trusting that more. So I think first, just setting the intention to connect with your intuition, that's got to be first. And then see what shows, right? Stay curious. And I always say, again, like we already talked about, to be discerning, breathe into the heart. Is this coming from a place of fear? Is this coming from a place of love? So there are many ways. I feel like the first step for someone who's new to wanting to connect with their intuition is to understand the chakras a little bit, because that's how we take in information, as I said. And then start to cultivate a relationship with your higher self, with your soul, and even the angelic realm, because they reach us through our intuition. That's how they get information to us. So you just open yourself up to so much, and then you really realize that you're absolutely never alone, and you're fully supported. And like, there's so much we could get into. It's such a big question for for me to answer, but I hope that's helpful. So the main thing is set the intention to connect with your intuition. Just say yes.
That's awesome. I love what you said. A couple of pieces I want to amplify and ask you about there. First, though, what you said about the value and importance of connecting to intuition. I find that for me, in a lot of my work as a coach, a lot of the clients that come to me, part of what they're working with is developing their business, their work, their influence, right? And these days, especially, one of the key components of that is how to be unique, how to be differentiated, right? There's so much going on in the world, and in some ways, how to have an advantage. And I don't mean an advantage over other people, but just what makes you uniquely powerful and special, and what's your secret sauce for your success. And even like Napoleon Hill speaks about this in sort of the opposite of what we think of as the woo-woo realm, is think and grow rich and the law of success, the power of being specialized. And to me, intuition in some ways is like the superpower with that, because there's so much information out there. And if you look in the business world, you should do this and do this and do this, and this is everybody's got their 12-step formula and do this thing, yet everybody's carrying around within them their own secret code, their own superpowers for their success in whatever realm, business or otherwise, that is available through their intuition. And you spoke specifically, and I love what you said, always the creator, never the victim. And then you spoke about the power of the language I use is the morning routine or ritual or protocol. And you described a bit what you do. And this is, to me, one of the most important things for creating success in everything is the idea that we are the creator of our life. We have infinite creative power, and that this morning time is so sacred and important for that. So would you say more about that? I mean, is that, am I hearing you right? And is this making sense?
Yeah, I think that morning ritual or routine, I can't imagine personally going through the day without doing that first, because then you're just a victim of circumstance. You're just a victim of what shows up in front of you, where you get to dictate how that's going to go. We know we're creators, right? So you sit down first thing in the morning. If you've got to get extra early, I'm sorry, your life depends on it, right? And don't you want that for yourself? So 5 minutes, just asking 5 minutes, a few deep breaths, and whatever self-care you need to do, get clean, get clear. How do you want your day to unfold? Visualize yourself at the end of the day being successful, being productive, sending love, being love, whatever that means to you, whatever is important, whatever your core values are that you want to bring through the day, see it already done. That's what I do. I already see the day already done. I have no idea how the day is going to unfold sometimes, right? As between, I still am connected to the military, and I'm still also doing this. So it could go any way, but all I have to do is focus on this present moment in the morning, and then at the end of the day, how am I celebrating? Because I know it went well. And you just laid down such a beautiful environment for magic to happen. And I feel like you guys are worth it. Let's just you owe it to yourself. 5 minutes, it's all it takes. And maybe some affirmations. I personally don't like the store-bought affirmations, and they're wonderful. They really are. I personally like to create my own based on how I'm feeling in the moment and what I want to accomplish that day. So I'll create one. It can just be a few words. It can be just a little phrase, and I will carry that with me throughout the day. And so that can be very powerful as well. Just a little, you can call it a mantra or an affirmation, and just because it keeps you sort of grounded and rooted in your intention for that day. And even if there's nothing big that you feel that you need to accomplish that day, how do you want to feel at the end of the day? It's so powerful. And I didn't live my life before that way. And since I started doing that, it's been a couple of years. I can't tell you the things that I've set myself up for, right? Because we know the law of attraction, right? Like attracts like. If you are vibing high and you're intentional, you just open yourself up for just so much, and it's going to meet you there, right? It's going to meet you up there. So it's important.
So let me play for a moment angel's advocate to what you're saying, because, well, first, before I do that, I really echo what you said. Your life is worth it, and even if it's just 5 minutes, to me, one of the key components to that is the decision, the clarity, the intention, the commitment for any of us to say, I'm going to prioritize my life. And if that means getting up 5 minutes, or for me, it's 2 hours, I invest each morning typically, right? One of the biggest values of that, I think, is just the decision saying, I'm in charge here. I'm not just going to be a rudderless boat on the sea of each day. I am. But so here's the angel's advocate part. We're speaking of it in terms of creating, and you said you even used the word dictating how your day is going to go. And so I know some folks might hear that and say, well, come on, you can't control everything. There's going to be stuff that happens in the day. So will you go another step with that when you say dictating? I know you're not talking about, manipulating everything around you, yet you are speaking about creating experience in some way. Would you add more to that?
Of course, there's always going to be something that pops in that you can't control and you shouldn't control, but then ask yourself, because I do believe we're the creator, what is life trying to show me here? This thing that showed up that I wasn't expecting, that I'm not sure that I like, what is it trying to show me? It's a mirror, right? So within, so without. So I stay curious about it. Okay, let me see, where am I out of alignment here? So I do fully believe that we have that much control over our life. And as far as the things that sort of pop up, I mean, if you've already set the intention that by the end of the day, you're going to be successful and you're going to feel in flow and you're going to feel that you've done all that you can, you just have to trust that this is part of that process. And maybe you don't understand it right now, and maybe you won't later, but have faith that it's part of this creation of yours.
Nice. Okay. So here's a question, Teresa. I know part of your journey, like we know some part, obviously, losing your husband when you did at such an important time in your life as a young mother was super challenging. Is there anything else that you would share in terms of challenges you've had and how you've had to overcome and what that's meant to you?
Yeah, and I actually feel that this even speaks to what we're talking about in being the creator. So I was in an environment where it just wasn't good for me, and I stayed, and it was pretty damaging mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually, all the things. And I started to become sick. I started to become very ill, and my doctors said that, we really need to get a handle on this or you're going to be in trouble. And I couldn't quite figure it out, because I'm thinking, okay, I know what I know. If I am the creator, what is happening here? And so I started to understand that the manifestation that I was feeling within was manifesting without, right, into the body, from disease into disease. And I started to make some changes, and it was not easy. I will tell you, it took a few years. Not easy at all, but I've done it, and I have completely freed myself from all of the physical manifestations, to the point where the doctors couldn't understand it. In fact, he called it a medical anomaly. And so I'm thinking, you can call it what you want, but I know what happened, So yeah, so that was really challenging for me, because it was a real test to my faith and what I believe and how we create our life. So, but yeah, I just kept applying what I know and changing my perspective on things, and changing my energy, and being really clean with my energy, being more particular about who I share space with, who I share conversations with, where I put my mind. Am I watching TV? Am I listening to something that's not going to serve me? And so it was basically hygiene on every level, and it made it was a very challenging time, though, especially in the fields of everything else. But yeah.
Um, and I don't want to pry, of course. So I'm curious. You
No
said
worries.
you were in a situation that wasn't good for you, or that was hard. Is there any more you can say about that? What that was? What, just so we can
Oh,
understand
yeah.
better?
Yes, absolutely. So I was in a relationship that was very damaging and very all the things you read about. So yeah, and I stayed, and part of it was worthiness. Did I feel I deserved any better? I was on the fence. Really forced me to stand back and look at myself and look at my situation and decide, right? At some point, we have to make a decision. And so that's what I did. And then the steps show, right? Again, using your intuition. I had no idea how I was going to make the changes. And they just presented themselves, right? You just make the decision, connect with your intuition. I connect with the angels every day. Angels light up that next step on the stone. And you just keep that conversation going. Next thing you know, you get a phone call. Next thing you know, you meet this person. Next thing you know, you're getting the help, and you're getting the clarity that you need, and the right doctors. And next thing you know, it's just a memory. So yeah, I have been through many different situations. I mean, early on, after my husband died, I was in crisis management mode. There was so much going on. Like we don't even have enough time to get into all that, but there was a lot. And this was before I knew anything about the mind-body connection, and I was getting really sick, but differently, and seeing specialists, and they finally told me, well, it looks like you have MS. And so now I've got, on the heels of my husband dying, now I've got this condition, and now I've got some other challenges around one of my children. And it was just a really, really dark time. But come to find out, as I started to get better, as I started to feel better, I started to get stronger, get tested again, and oh no, look, you don't have MS. We don't know. It's interesting. But for me, I do believe it was the acute grief, because I had all the symptoms of it, and I went for the muscle test. I did all the things, and sure, I could have bought into that diagnosis, and then guess what? Now I do own, now I do have it, but something within me said, well, hang on, something's not quite right. It just didn't, already using my intuition, right? It just didn't feel right. And so I did what I had to get healthy, to get strong, and now that's another thing of the past. And so I am such a firm believer that yes, we are the creator. Yes, we have control over almost any situation. I'd go as far as to say 99% of the situations. And if you can, and sometimes that's a hard pill to swallow, if you can take ownership of it and look at it and say, you know, in some way I feel, okay, maybe I did create this. That's the first step. Because if you can create it, you can uncreate it, or you can create differently. And so I stand by that, because I've been, again, I've been proven right to myself. So yeah.
Well, that's powerful, and that's beautiful, and amazing that you were able to, in a series of challenges, from losing your husband to, hearing that you have MS, be able to stay strong and clear in what you knew was possible, and to create something different than what you were being told. I often think, like, again, I work with a lot of people that are healers, therapists, coaches in different ways, and people ask about, well, should I get a certification course? And should I, like, yeah, it's great. Of course, study, learn things, get all the skills you can. That's wonderful. And your biggest qualification is what you have overcome, right? So for you, as your work and your influence is evolving, right, to have come up against those really challenging situations, yet been able to stay with yourself and what's possible, and kind of not buy into the stories of limitations that were being foisted upon you. That's maybe your greatest strength, and one of the greatest things you bring to the world.
Yeah, thank you. It's and it's not a choice I ever made, although on some level I'm sure I did. Depending on what your beliefs are, I'm sure I came for this. But yeah, and that's what I try to share with people is you're not limited to or by your story. Never, ever, ever. And so, and I feel connection to the angelic realm provides, the unconditional love and support, knowing that you're not alone. It empowers you to, to trust your path, to trust that you're supported, to trust that there's more for you. And yeah, everything is pretty much overcomable. I'm not sure that's a word. I'm pretty sure it isn't, but that's how I feel.
Well, I'm 100% with you. The meaning is clear, and oh gosh, time is flying along here. So, still, I want to ask you one more thing about that, because you just brought up again about the angelic realm, and we're in an age right now where one of the greatest dangers is, despite all the internet connection and social media, one of the greatest dangers is isolation and loneliness, right? So many people are feeling that. That's part of what's fueling the epidemics of anxiety and depression. Um, Yet part of what your experience is, and I think part of what you're teaching and empowering people to, is to realize there's always connection. There's always connection to guides or angels. Am I understanding that right? And what more could you
Yeah.
say about the importance and value of that?
Yes, absolutely. And not just knowing that they're available, that they're just on the other side of the veil, but it's the support that they can bring you to in the physical realm. Because I move around every few years. I didn't really have any solid friendships, and that's really what I was craving. And so I asked the angels for help with that. And I was very specific in the kind of friend I was looking for, somebody I can belly laugh with, somebody who I can trust and can trust me. And sure enough, that's exactly what they brought to me, and it's been amazing. And so I feel, um, yeah, just knowing that you have that support, you have the guidance, you simply just have to ask for it and then expect it, right? And be open to how that's going to show, though. It could come through some sort of intuitive message, or a book could literally land in your lap. You just don't know. um, I just feel that it helps you to, um, just have more trust and faith in yourself and in the world. And um, yeah, it just makes you, yeah, I just keep wanting to go back to the word trust, trusting your abilities, trusting your path, trusting that you're going to overcome, trusting that what you want is going to show. And that's what they want, nothing more than your great success. That is all they want. And they're going to bring you, honestly, whatever it is that's going to make you enjoy this life a little bit more.
Well, beautiful. That's great. Awesome. So, Teresa, we're starting to lose time here. There's so much more I want to talk about with you. But for people that want to connect with you more, want to get in touch, what's the best way for that?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So my website, teresabakeropland.com, you can email me, message me. I'd be happy to connect with you if I can be of any support. I'm also on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, all the things. And yeah, just reach out to me. I'd be honored to see if I can provide some support, and hope to use my experience to see if I can help you navigate whatever it is you're needing some help with.
That's beautiful. Awesome. Okay. Well, well, actually, let me ask this before I get to the big final question. Is there anything I haven't asked you about? Anything that you want to, bring forward for our
Mhm.
audience?
Um, Well, first, I want to say I feel like we all suffer from some sort of imposter syndrome. I'm still sort of overcoming that a little bit. I'm doing much better with it. And so I feel like that's the case with a lot of us. Whether you think you're not good enough to connect with the angels, whether you think you're not worthy of that big dream that's in your heart, what I want to say is, um, you wouldn't have it if you didn't also have the ability to bring it to life, to bring it to reality. And the way I overcome it is I listen to gossip, meaning I listen to the positive gossip. What are some positive things people have said to me? And I just look at past successes, and trust that I'm poised to succeed here. And so I just felt called to say that I feel like that's a message that needs to go out to people. We just have so much doubt. We really do. Um, and again, if you only knew, trusted the support that you have, you couldn't fail. And you won't fail, but you just enjoy the journey a little bit more if you just trusted that a little bit.
Yeah, beautiful. Thank you for that. Okay, so I think it's time to ask the big fight. It's an impossible question because you've got so much experience, so much wisdom, and yet the question is impossible. However, the good news is you can't fail because you can't succeed. So the big question is this: given all your experience, all your wisdom, all that you have to share, if you had to boil that all down into one thing that you think would for our audience be most empowering for them to lead their most vibrant, thriving life, what's the one thing you would share for that?
One thing that I would share. Mm, mm-mm. Um, well, I would say if it's in your heart, it's on your path. You're absolutely meant to succeed with with whatever it is. And I know this to be true. I know this with everything that I am, with everything that I've learned. And what I want to say is trust what's in your heart. And if you're not even sure what that means, stay curious. At least be curious to what life wants to show you. Start there.
I love that. Yeah. If it's in your heart, it's on your path. And that's funny. I mentioned Napoleon Hill earlier. He said, if the brain can conceive it, the person can achieve it. And whether it's the brain or the heart, we know it so in such a grounded scientific way now that there is this field, there's this realm of infinite potential. So it is like quite literally evident that if we can imagine it, and even better, if we can feel it, then it can be created. So I just love that you are empowering us all to have more belief in that, more trust in that, more faith, right? Because that's just such a big challenge for so many of us. So thank you for that.
Yeah, no, my honor, truly. Yeah, thank you for allowing me to share this time and space with you. I've so enjoyed this conversation. I can feel the energy around me. They're all excited to connect with people and to have people be open to receiving them and just experience their love. So
that's beautiful. I love it. Well, I'm sure people will be reaching out to you, and thank you again for not just for taking the time to be with us and share today, but for the journey you've been on and the work you've done to cultivate the wisdom and the positivity and what you've overcome. Because it makes a big difference for so many people, and I'm glad that we've gotten the chance to bring that forward here today.
Wow, excellent. I hope someone is better for it. So thank you so much.
Guaranteed. That's awesome. All right. And for y'all in the audience, whether you're here with us live or by rebroadcast, thank you. Your interest in creating a vibrant, thriving life, that's cool. Even better, though, you're doing something about it. You're taking time out to learn, to grow. Again, I'm hoping that you are taking at least one thing today from Teresa's wisdom and you're saying, yeah, I can apply that in my life. And you doing that, not only does it make your life better, which is awesome and worthy unto itself, it makes the world better. So I'm so delighted that y'all are here. I love you. I appreciate you. I'm grateful for you. And I look forward to seeing you again in a new show. In the meantime, please make your life a masterpiece. See you soon. Aloha. Mahalo for tuning in to the Art of Vibrant Living show, y'all. I'm Daniel Aaron, and may you live with great vibrancy.